Welcome to Stuck Time to Improv. I'm Mary Scott with Business Riff, and I want startups to be wildly successful. Now, some startups have come up with an idea they think they're going to want to franchise. And today I'm very happy to have as my guest Keith Levenson from Client Tether. And we're going to be talking about that. Welcome, Keith.
Hey, thanks, Mary. Thanks for having me. Yeah, happy to be here. It's always fun to talk franchising, especially about micro emerging brands.
Micro emerging brands, exactly. So, what is like the first most common mistake a company makes when they think they want a franchise?
Yeah, they're underfunded. They think that franchising is an inexpensive way of growth, and while there is a model that you could talk about, like once you're a franchisor, you can operate, hundreds of units or have hundreds of units operating under your brand with much less staff than you would if you were the corporate owner of that. That's a very true statement. Unfortunately, to become the franchisor that has that many units and to really get off the ground, you need a large nest egg. This is not an inexpensive path to growth. And it's not a short-term path to growth. We measure franchising by years, not by our watch. So you have to understand that it's going to take a long time. And I would say the minimum you need to have as a nest egg is 250,000. And that's minimum. You want to have quite a bit. As the more that you can stockpile, the better off it is. And too often we see emerging brands coming in the marketplace where they have one corporate unit open and operating, and it's doing pretty well. It's producing a good income, and then they use that as their piggy bank to start franchising. And it's just not enough cash. The cash flow just isn't there to support this operation because there's a lot of lift that's going to take. It's going to require capital.
Okay, so net capital isn't just to set up franchises, it's to actually um, rent space or buy equipment or provide the kind of support that you want for people who are going to be licensing your franchise, right?
100%. The support aspect is really important because we focus initially on franchise development or franchise sales, which makes sense, right? You can't be a franchisor if you don't have franchisees, and you can't have franchisees unless you award them a franchise, right? But you really have to think about it from the support perspective because once you have those first few franchisees open and operating, how they do, how they perform, how they feel about you is going to determine how many more franchisees come in behind them because their validation is going to be the most critical aspect of your entire development program.
Okay, so what are some of the things you have to think about in terms of support for a franchisee?
Yeah, there's a ton. It's going to start with some systemization. How do we provide systems that are going to be put in place? If you're, a brick and mortar brand, what type of real estate are we going to need? Where is that real estate? Is it Class A? Is it Class C? Is it commercial? And then who can I find that can be a partner that can help me find those spaces? Because if you are brick and mortar, that time from finding that location to being in a signed lease situation with that brand or that person could be 9 to 12 months. There's going to be a long opening window. Again, while you have to have that cash on hand to be able to fund that business. And then it's also looking at it though from a chart of accounts perspective. I think that's one of the bigger mistakes that franchisors make is they've kind of run their business maybe not with the cleanest P&L of all time, which is fine. But when you're starting to franchise, you really need to have a clean chart of accounts that you can provide to that franchisee. Because remember, their business acumen is going to be less than yours typically. So how do you provide them with a really great asset to say, here's your chart of accounts. Here's an accountant to use as well, by the way. And then SOPs around the operation of your business that are really detailed and well thought out so that, you're really thinking about it. We always think about franchisees. We're going to get this most amazing franchise. They're going to be this former military staff sergeant who is just this phenomenal operator who's going to listen to everything I do. And the truth of franchising, and Dave Barr has said this many times, is that it's really about creating systems for the average person with an average work ethic, with average intellect, on an average day, accumulating average success. That is really what franchising is. 60% of your franchisees are going to be average performers. That's just the reality of it. So we want these amazing high performers that we want the Shohei Ohtani's of the world in our lineup. But the reality is we're going to get more Keith Levensons, unfortunately. Sorry.
And surely, even the startups that want to license a service, like they've got a curriculum set up for a wilderness camp, or they've got an app and how to use it, you still have to have things like owner's manuals and lists of exactly, you need to put it in writing, the standard operating procedures, right?
Absolutely. The operations manual is going to be probably your second largest expense next to your franchise attorney when you first start out. If you want to go to and have a service write that for you, it's an expensive tool, but it's required. That's where you're going to put all of your, hey, here's my recommended CRM supplier. Here's my recommended, payroll advisor. Here's my recommended, whatever the service might be, app provider, developer, whatever it is that you're doing.
Sure. And make sure that you've got your intellectual property copyrighted, trademarked, patented, whatever it is that you need to make sure that your brand remains your brand and doesn't get diluted by a potential franchisee.
Yeah, that's one of your biggest responsibilities is once you become a franchisor, protecting the brand at all costs. I mean, the investment made by those franchisees is in the brand. It's in your systems and your processes. So you have to protect that really, really strongly. Otherwise, you can have franchisees could lose their homes literally if you don't protect it.
So, what's an attribute of a successful franchisor?
That's a good question. Lack of ego. One of the most important, and I know that sounds like so facetious in a lot of ways, but it's the truth. You've got to be able to say, I don't know what I don't know. And it's okay that I don't know it. And it's okay that I'm not the best at this just yet. There's a learning process that you go through when you go from operator to franchisor. And I've always said this to emerging franchisors. You might have had your business for the last 20 years and you've done this and have done amazing things and you've grown this business and it's great. Now you're a franchisor, and the next 3 years of your life are going to suck because you are operating your business and becoming a franchisor, and you're not sure how to be a franchisor because you are so used to being in complete control. So you've got to take a step back and go, what don't I know? Who can I find that can teach me that? And then listen, be open to ideas, be open to thoughts that are not your own. And the old saying, right? Two ears and one mouth and use them in proportion. So listen more than you talk.
Well, thank you so much, Keith. And we'll put contact information if people want more information about franchising into the comments. So, do you have any parting thoughts?
No, but this was great. This was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. It's always fun talking about franchising, and hopefully, well, there's always a place for a new franchise system in the space. So hopefully, we'll meet some new and exciting brands.
And somebody out there is going to be coming up with an idea that's going to change the world. And I'm Mary Scott with Business Riff. I want startups to be wildly successful. And one of the best things you can do to accomplish that is book a call with me at businessriff.com. And join us again next time for Stuck, Time to Improv.